finale of the Wright Perspective. Be sure to like, share. I know, right? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on any and every platform you use to engage with us. Today, we're going to recap and review What's Love Got to Do with It, the 1993 biopic of the life of Tina Turner, starring Angela Bassett and Laurence Fishburne. This movie was not originally on our list of films for this season, but of course we wanted to take the opportunity to honor the life and impact of Tina Turner, who recently passed away, actually less than a month ago on May 24th, 2023. And so I wanted to read a few sentences from a memorial article in Rolling Stone. And there, of course, were tons of these articles out there, but Rolling Stone seemed like the right publication to pull from for her. It says, Tina Turner, the raspy voice fireball who overcame domestic abuse and industry ambivalence to emerge as one of rock and soul's brassiest, most rousing, and most inspirational performers, died Wednesday at age 83. Tina Turner, the queen of rock and roll, has died peacefully today at the age of 83 after a long illness in her home in Küsnacht near Zurich, Switzerland, her family said in a statement Wednesday. With her, the world loses a music legend and a role model. So that's just a small piece of a really lovely, lovely article on rollingstone.com. What's Love Got to Do with It grossed $61 million on a $51 million budget. Angela Bassett and Laurence Fishburne received nominations at the 66th Academy Awards for Best Actress and Best Actor, and they didn't win. But Angela Bassett won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress for Motion Picture Comedy or Musical that year. And for some, these facts and just the mere fact that this movie, honors the legacy of this amazing woman, that would be enough for this movie to be considered a classic. But today, we will determine whether it's a classic from the right perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol that we have picked especially for this discussion. But let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
And it is the finale. So I have to say hello. I am Brittany Wright, and I am, in fact, the youngest.
Y'all got all three syllables of the name today.
Yeah, well, pin a rose on your nose. Okay, the youngest, whatever. Okay.
So hard having haters your whole life.
Y'all, this is season 3. Before we even get into this movie, can we just have a moment here of just celebrating 3 seasons of this podcast? I was trying to search my brain. I can't even remember how this whole thing started.
I know
whose idea was this?
It was we were all talking. We were all talking on a 3-way, and we thought, we were how we always joke about our name or whatever, and then we came up with that. It was real time, the right. We should do this. We're talking about the musicals right now. We should do this. Should be a podcast. We could call it The Right Perspective.
And boom, and there was.
Yeah, wow. I remember, and I this is one of my favorite parts of life, and I'm glad that I have Brittany lives in Pittsburgh, Janai lives in New York, I live in Atlanta, and so we don't get to physically see each other a lot. And we all got lives going on, you know what I'm saying? And so, but this is no matter what, we're doing this. So I'm very grateful and just happy, that we're in season 3 and I'm excited about moving forward. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that.
That was well said, bro. I love you.
Oh, I love you too. I love you.
That was sweet. It makes me want to create a Right Perspective song right now.
Do it.
It's the right perspective.
Oh yeah.
Simply the best. Wait.
Yes. That no.
Wait a minute, I got
No.
We
No.
cannot afford the license.
that was Tina.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We can rewind. It's the right perspective. Whoa, yeah.
yeah, I
Whoa,
like that. I
whoa.
like that 90s sitcom flair you just
Yo,
had.
if we did have a song, it would be a 90s
Yeah,
sitcom,
Absolutely.
yeah.
late
It's like
80s, 90s.
it's what do you do when you need an opinion? You go to
The right perspective.
what do I watch? What do I
Hold
do?
on, and
What
there
do
would
I
be,
listen to?
but there would be
with-
different. There would be different
The right
angles.
perspective.
Like it would be like this,
Totally.
and then my name would kind of like Aubrey Wright.
And then I'd have like a sassy pose, like,
I would want something beside me to drop, and I just pick it up and go.
like I'm such a silly goose for
Oh,
dropping
man.
things.
Okay, as a matter of fact, we're going to do this. I don't know when, but we're going to do this and put this together.
Sis, do you have any season 3, any reflections at this season 3 point?
You know, I have appreciated just I like hearing other people be excited about our podcast. Like it has been like, every time like I hear it, although I always expect that people are watching, it still is nice when someone's like, oh my goodness, that was so funny. And I'm like, it still catches me off guard, like, oh, okay. And so it's just I appreciate whenever those things happen. And it's definitely had me see way more movies than I thought that I would. And even just some movies that I think were on my list, but I was just never making time. And so now when you have a circumstance where you have to make time to do it, it's like, okay, you can make time for things you want. So at any rate, it has definitely been a good journey. Just like I can't believe season 3. In my brain, we were like still in season 1. Like, and I'm like, have we been doing this for 2 years for real? For 3 years for real. And I was like, dang, oh my gosh. So it's just been a point of reflection, like, okay, and you just, you can't despise small beginnings. So I'm looking forward to see what we do for the future.
Yeah, I love that, sis. I feel the same way as both of you. I'm in gratitude. I'm excited for all the content that we have, and I'm looking forward to us promoting it more. And I had a moment the other day. I got a message from someone who was a fan of a video series that me and my friend Larry did years ago, recapping the show Scandal.
Yeah.
The scandalous scandal recap.
The scandalous scandal recap. So me and my friend Larry Brown Jr.
LBJ.
Yes, and if we go to the Wright Perspective YouTube page, there's a link to a playlist that actually has our videos on it. But we would recap and discuss the scandalous scandal recap. And there was someone that, well, let me just say, we had a very, very good following. We even had some episodes that hit like thousands and thousands of views, so we had some really good momentum on that podcast. But what was special is that we had some actual relationships that came out of it. Mm-hmm. So there was a woman, her name is Josie Carter. I'm shouting her out, okay, who threw a big event in Los Angeles. This is when the show Scandal was everybody's jam. And she called it Gladiators Unite, right? And there were people from all across the country. I remember there were people from other countries. I remember there was this woman from Barbados I talked to for a long time. So people from around the world came to California to celebrate and enjoy this show. And she had panelists there, including like Joe Morton was there, Papa Pope, and she had invited me and Larry to be on a panel. I was on a panel with Kev on stage, that now very well-known comedian. This is when he was really just popping off. And And Josie now is someone that I consider to be a dear friend.
Wow.
And
That's
so,
dope.
and so anyway, I'm just saying, like, there are relationships that have come out of these mediums, and the fact that we're doing the right perspective, it has allowed me to keep in touch with a lot of connections that I made through the scandalous scandal recap that me and Larry used to do.
I
So
love
anyway,
that.
that's it. So I'm grateful for all of this, and I'm also just really grateful for the relationships that have come from it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited already for season 4. We'll see what happens, y'all.
Shout out to the Perspective community.
Yay! All right, so let's get into our final episode for this season, y'all. And again,
There's
we're
my
talking about
pulse reading.
yes. And what's love got to do with it? Well, everything. Obviously, we've started now with Love Fest at the top of this podcast episode. But y'all, if you're new to our podcast, we always pick a voting symbol at the top of the podcast, and we use that to, at the end of the podcast, to vote to decide whether the content is a classic from the right perspective. Okay, and we all come up with suggestions. I generally try to get something that really gets to the essence, something that gets to the heart of the matter. Okay, and I recommend that as a voting symbol. Aubrey will generally pull one of the very well-known visuals or points from the content, and Brittany doesn't prepare at all, and in the moment the spirit just moves her and she'll
That's
make some
right.
recommendations. And so
Bebop
y'all,
in the sky.
I have one to recommend, and
Uh-oh.
I think it draws it's right on that line, because I think it's also a very iconic symbol for not only Tina Turner before this movie, and that is the fringe dress. I want to recommend that we use the fringe dress as a voting symbol, and that is because it's layered. It's got so many layers, and when it comes down to the woman that Tina Turner was, we meet her initially as this mousy, person from the country, and there is
Nutbush, Tennessee.
from Nutbush, Tennessee, and no one, including her, would have thought early in her life in young adulthood that she would end up becoming an iconic rock star, international rock star. And so I think she is just the perfect example of, you don't know what's beneath. Nobody knows. It's up to each of us to do that excavation work, to find out what's within and to bring it forward. And so I thank you for that lesson, Tina Turner. Thank you for that. Thank you for being a symbol of that. And that is why I recommend the fringe dress, the wonderful, all those wonderful shiny layers, to be our voting symbol. What'd you come up with, bro?
That was the only one I could think of as well, was the dress, because you associate that dress with Tina. So I thought of that too.
Sis, did you have any?
Well, listen, I know normally during the season I'm not prepared, but
you prepared
on our season finale.
Look at season 3.
On our season finale, nothing has changed. And so
that was beautiful, because you really set me up. I'm not gonna lie to you. I believed you. I believed you.
You built me up to let me down.
No, but she actually did it. Like, I wasn't. I thought she actually got
that was good, sis.
Which is hard to do.
That was good.
Nothing's changed.
Lord.
Here we go. Let's go. The Tina Turner hair. Okay. The dress. Okay. Her arms and legs could really just be a voting symbol on them own.
You said it. You said it, girl.
Listen. Okay. They all by herself. Okay. Yes. A microphone. Yep. Okay. A piece of cake. This
all right, I'm dramatic. Stopping her now. I'm stopping her. Now you're getting stopped. That wasn't funny, Brittany.
If you are in the Black community,
it's a quote.
It's a quote. It's a moment.
It's a cake anime.
It's a cake anime.
This was the first time I saw this movie.
Listen.
This was the first time I saw this movie.
Quotes from this movie that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
There was so much. I've never seen this movie, but I've known that
That
So
quote,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
Eat the cake anime.
Eat the cake anime. Yeah.
We use it in the Black community to refer to anything.
Anything.
Anything. We could use that quote.
There are a
in
million
any
You're
ways to
different
fit it
way.
supposed
into
to
a
do
million
something.
things.
Yes. If you're
Yeah.
supposed to do something and it's like you don't want to do it, you're trying to make someone do it, just eat the cake anime.
Yeah. Or if you already did something you didn't really want to do.
Is
Eat cake
that?
anime. There's just so many ways
We're
to use it.
so sorry
so good.
that we're like that in the Black community. We're sorry, not sorry.
We're not.
We're not sorry.
Well, I will say, it seems like the dress was on your list, sis.
Yeah.
And it was Aubrey's idea as well. It sounds like it was on
Yeah,
everybody's
I think
dress
that's good.
too.
Yeah, let's do the dress.
Yay!
All right.
Yes,
So
a
at the
shimmer,
end
shimmer
of this
dress.
episode, okay, what's love got to do with it? Has got to receive 3 fringe dresses. If it does not receive 3, it will not be considered a classic. Okay. So let's get into a quick recap. We always do a recap, y'all, because spoiler alert, because our content is generally old, just like this movie came out in 1993. All right, let's do a quick recap. All right, so here's a recap
I can't
of what's
believe it
love
came
got
out
to.
93.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
And I was like, what was I doing in 93? I was in 6th grade. But
Yep.
somehow I associate this movie with like being in college. I feel like maybe that's when I saw it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We definitely couldn't have saw it at our house. Because
Oh,
I
no
remember I
way.
saw it at a cousin's house.
Yeah, that was the only way that was getting viewed outside the home.
Yeah.
Well, let's do
It's surprising
recap.
because it's Tina Turner, I wouldn't have been surprised if that got a pass.
The abusive themes, I think, is
Yeah,
probably would have kept it
you
out.
probably kept it. Yeah, you're
Yes,
right. You're right.
that's probably
You're
would have
right.
done it.
You're right. Yeah.
So let's dig in here. So Tina Turner's real name is Anna Mae Bullock. So that's the name you're going to hear, in the beginning of the recap, just FYI. And so Anna Mae was raised in Nutbush, Tennessee by her grandmother. Her mother had abandoned her when she was really young, apparently fleeing an abusive relationship with Anna Mae's father. And as an 18 or 19-year-old in 1958, when her grandmother died, Anna Mae gets reunited with her mother and older sister in St. Louis, Missouri. Anna is enthralled by city life, including the nightlife. And after watching a local star named Ike Turner perform with his band, Kings of Rhythm, multiple times, she participated in an audience sing-along opportunity and really impressed him. Ike told Anna and her mother that he could make Anna famous, and they believed him. And so she became a front woman for his band. And then eventually they record and release a hit song called A Fool in Love. And Ike actually released the song under the moniker Ike and Tina Turner, effectively, without her permission, frankly, giving Tina Turner the stage name that we all now know and love. Along the way, as their professional career was blooming, so was a romantic one. Unfortunately, Ike was incredibly abusive, both physically and mentally. He was a drug addict and severely insecure and jealous. He'd watched other artists that he'd nurtured surpass him, and he took that bitterness out on Tina, especially as her star started to rise professionally. Phil Spector had signed Tina to a solo deal for the song River Deep Mountain High, and that actually opened the door for Ike and Tina to open for the Rolling Stones in London. And then after that, they released their cover of the song Proud Mary. And at that point, Tina just became a bona fide international superstar, and that pushed Ike further into the shadows. He was so resentful. And Tina, who suffered from her own abandonment issues, she just couldn't find it within herself to leave this abusive relationship. So she endured that abuse for about 16 years. She had a child with Ike and raised his children from a prior relationship. Eventually, a friend introduces Tina to Buddhism, and it helps Tina to find the courage to leave Ike and start life on her own. She divorces him and gives him the rights to everything they own together: music, property, everything. The only thing she kept from their life together was her stage name. Then at the age of 43, she launched her solo career with the support of a new manager named Roger Davies, who believed in her dream of being a rock star in spite of her being a Black woman in her 40s. Not a usual demographic for rock star, kickoff career time. Okay. And in 1983, Roger had set Tina up with a huge launch performance at Ritz Theater. Ike somehow gets into the theater and confronts her in her dressing room. threatening to harm her. She stares him in the eye and shocks his mind to Channel 9 when she conveys that she is no longer intimidated by him. She dares him to do his worst. And as he stands there dumbfounded by her evolution, she walks out of the dressing room onto the stage to perform her new single, What's Love Got to Do with It? And of course, the rest is history. The end.
What love got to do with it?
Woo! Oh, y'all.
Emotion. Let's discuss what that song means.
Yeah. Get into it, sis. Get into it.
I don't know. I thought y'all
it felt like she was just open it. It didn't sound like she had a theory.
Sis, I thought that song had touched your soul and you was about to break something down.
You see, because I think that song has always been something that has made me go, what does she mean by a second?
Oh, I think for me, it's very clear. Is that
okay?
When you're talking about creating a successful relationship, what's love got to do with it? For real. Because like the thing about it is love is amazing, right? It's what everything is about. But it's also incredibly dangerous in the sense that you can fall in love with someone who is ultimately detrimental to your life. And all of us have experienced that on some level, one way or the other. And it might not even be love. You might think it's love in the moment. You know what I'm saying? But to me, what she's thinking about is that it's almost like this person's treating me wrong. It's like, but I love them. And somebody else saying, what does love got to do with it? Like if they're treating you wrong, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? About so that's how it always is.
Okay. Well, I will tell you how I hear that song. And it's not too far from where you are, bro. When I hear that song as someone whose heart's been broken and they are fully in their like defense space. You know, and there's even that line where it's like, love, it's like a sweet old fashioned notion. What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? And so it's almost a place, it's like the person is basically saying, like, you know what? Love has not served me. And so I'm not factoring that in right now. I am focused on our physical connection. I'm focused on having a good time, and I'm focused on myself. I've been taking on a new direction, but I have to say, I've been thinking about my own protection, and it scares me to feel this way. It's like I'm rejecting love, okay? Because it has not served me.
When she says it's physical, she's
talking
about
love. The lyrics.
I thought physical was sex. I thought I'm taking her and saying, listen, I'm not getting into all this emotional stuff. We're keeping it light, okay? We're keeping it physical, okay? And we're keeping it breezy. Because I don't need love.
That makes sense to me. But I've always heard it as I always heard it like she's saying these feelings we're feeling are ultimately physical. So it's like you're talking about love like it's this mystical thing where it's wonderful, it's amazing. You know what I'm saying? But it's not enough to overcome.
I hear what you're saying, bro.
No, but I'm saying I hear what you're saying too. And that completely makes sense. It's so funny how like we all hear.
But see, that's when it's good.
Art.
That's when it's good.
That's art.
Yes.
That's art.
When we all have an interpretation and it works no matter where you land,
Yeah.
And she says, you must understand how the touch of your hand makes my pulse react. It's only the thrill of boy meeting girl. Opposites attract. It's physical, only logical. You must try to ignore that it means more than that. Yeah, these lyrics are deep. They're deep.
Yeah, I might delve into them lyrics later.
Yeah.
Listen, I was just looking at them like, I see what Genia is saying. Like, it's not part of that. What I felt like when I was just looking at them, like the lyrics are saying like, love doesn't have nothing to do with this interaction right now, honey. And don't get confused and think it does. Because I like how you touch me and you like how I touch you. That's it.
Yeah, I really think y'all are right. I really
But
think
that
you're right.
line where she says you must try to ignore that it means more than that. I feel that that's her saying, okay, maybe I do. There's some emotion creeping in here. Stop it, thwart it, reject it. Okay.
Oh man,
Keep
I'm
it
gonna
simple.
read these lyrics. Like I didn't know. I'd have read them
Tina
before if I knew we were
girl.
thinking
Yeah.
about this,
Yeah.
but like,
But,
yeah,
but
that's
it's a
good.
perfect
That's good.
way for the movie to wrap too.
Yeah.
Because whoever wrote this song, they're reflecting on some lessons learned. Okay. Yeah. And if there's one thing that we know that she concluded through her life story, through the first 40 years of her life, is that love is not enough. Okay. Because did she love her mom? Yeah. Mama gone. Mama left her. Okay. Did she love Ike? Yes. What did he do? Mentally, physically abused her. That there's got to be some other things that make a relationship work. And so a person who's had her life journey would certainly ask the question, what does love got to do with it? However you interpret that question. Okay.
That's the end of the podcast. Y'all have a good one. Thank you for coming to the Right Perspective, honey. That's it. Listen.
And these mics ain't going to work next time because we about to drop all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, drop all the mics.
And bro, I think you should kick us off because I didn't know that this was your first time seeing this movie. I personally have seen it 1,527 times. I can almost recite parts of this movie.
It was a movie that I felt like I knew the whole movie before I saw it. And after I saw it, I was in fact correct for all of these past 30 years. But because I'm like, okay, when you see it, you're like, okay, somewhere along the line, she hooks up with Ike. Ike obviously becomes abusive. She breaks away and becomes a bigger star. That is what this movie is going to be.
Yeah.
And the other thing is Tina Turner for me is an interesting case because she's one of the artists where I could watch her and see the talent. I can listen to her and hear the talent and know that I'm watching something special, but it just doesn't connect with me. Her music just doesn't move me. And it's like, I'm not saying the music is obviously amazing.
Yes.
But just even from a technical standpoint. So, like, for example, if you had a biopic about Sade, I'll be all over that because of how Sade's music resonates with me. But
yes.
That
makes sense.
Don't get me started.
But that makes sense. So remember, we just did that Barbra Streisand movie. Yeah. And we were all like, oh my God, her voice is the best thing since sliced bread. I didn't buy no CDs of hers. I think it's very possible to really, love and respect someone from a very genuine place, but also not necessarily be an active fan. I think that happens.
Right. And that's where I was, because that's why I just never been moved to see it. But now watching it, I would have liked to be, surprised, but that was so. And I'll tell you right up front, like, the movie felt very much like it came from a perspective. You know what I mean? And it felt unbalanced to me. It just in watching it for the first time.
It was based on her book. It was inspired by her book of her life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's her take.
There were just things.
It's a version of her take. There were inaccuracies that the Turner family raised questions about. So that's just something we all should know. It's not like Tina Turner is saying 100% of what happened in this movie is right.
Well,
but it was inspired by her book,
And I think that, like, that should have been clearer. That, like, this movie comes from my life, but y'all, this is I'm writing a movie here. Like, this is a movie. This is not real life. There should have been because there were parts in that movie that made me stop and Google. I was like, did this happen? Like this, like when when they start showing abuse, it was making sense to me up to a certain point, right? Like when he smacked her when she said something about his song sounding the same. You know what I mean? Like that I could get there. When they were in, even when we talked about the scene earlier, when they were in the restaurant and the cake thing, unfortunately, I think all of us have probably witnessed or heard something, you know, even in our personal experience that was similar to that, you know what I mean? Or at least we've seen couples get too far in public, basically is what I'm saying. And they, you know, and one, you know what I'm saying? Like, the point I'm trying to make is I felt like that could have happened. That's what I'm trying to get down to.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like, But I felt like that could happen.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only point I'm trying to make. But when he pulled her out the hospital and they, you know, like went to go get married, I'm like that was just a lot for me. And I had to stop the movie and look that up. And from what I found, and I don't know the story. I don't know the story. Mm-hmm. From what I found, that didn't happen like that. Mm-hmm. But that particularly makes Ike look like a monster. I mean, can you think your wife is anemic? She just went through labor and you're going to pull her out. I mean, I'm just saying, if that to me needed to be something that happened. If you know, like, if you're going to put that in the movie and call it a biopic, like that was heavy. And then that scene where he assaulted her, that was like a traumatic scene to watch. And, I mean, like that was crazy. You know what I'm saying? And again, I had to stop because I'm like, yo, did this? Because in my mind, I'm just thinking like, this dude is like, what, you know, why was he even walking around free? You know, like this is crazy. And that, from what I found, that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? So the overall, that was my feeling throughout. You know what I mean? Like I was just, and like that scene at the end with the gun, I didn't even need to look that up. I know that didn't happen. Like that, that felt like a scene that somebody would write because that's how they wanted it to happen in their head. You know what I mean? But like, you're Tina Turner. Everybody knows about Ike Turner at this point. Ike Turner going to get all the way to your room with a gun. Get out of here. Like that, and then at the end, when he puts the gun down, and you're just like, what you gonna do, Ike? You're gonna shoot me? You're gonna do, yeah, and that's what I thought.
And you know,
and I'm just saying,
bro, I see what you're saying. I also think though that if you are trying to show 40 years of a person's life in 2 hours, that the work of the person who is adapting that life story, I think the work is to, you know, to somehow convey the truth in some really condensed way. And I think that work just requires combining moments and to get to the essence of things, you know? And so, you know, but I see what you're saying, but it, you know, it's like there is like I could see the value in a biopic only reenacting things that actually happened. I could see that, but I think we also all know that, like, if you were to just take one little moment from your life, even though it might actually be a moment that is a culminating moment of, you know, in your life, it would need some context in order for it to be understood as a culminating moment. And so I just think the work of adapting and storytelling, you know, required you sometimes to do that condensing work, you know. And so what do we learn from so and this is on like some trivia that's in Wikipedia. It does say that the incident in the Ritz Theater where Ike fails to scare Tina with his pistol is fabricated. Allegedly, Ike made threats to hire a hitman, so Tina carried a pistol, but he did not threaten her in person with a gun as depicted. So that didn't really happen. But with that moment, how the moment served us in the movie, it was a chance for them to have a confrontation and for her to be able to truly show him and us that she had moved beyond her fear of him and that her being in that concert was overcoming. And maybe all of those things happened across many moments, but they needed a way to show it in one moment. So I don't know in my mind that it takes away from a story when someone kind of takes that kind of liberty. Now, if they did something else where it was like he wasn't ever physically abusive, and they just added that because it added a nice dramatic flair to the movie, I would take issue with that. Or if they did something where it's like, she now has a slice across her back because of something he did, and she must bear that, and it's not a real. I don't know. So I feel like there's a way to. I give a little space. I give a little latitude for the storytelling.
I'm saying that movie ruined Ike Turner's life, and if he wasn't as much of a monster as he was depicted in that movie, I'm saying that's irresponsible.
Well, he definitely was. I mean, I watched a couple of interviews with Tina Turner, and he was absolutely that abusive.
Well, I watched a few documentaries on this, and I don't know what happened.
Was it her talking though?
But it was, I'm saying that's the thing. If we're just hearing her side, right? She's talking, but I'm just saying, does that negate the people, the people who were in the environment? And if they were there and they were observing, does it mean that they can't, like whatever they say doesn't have any impact at all? Like that would, so like you had times where.
Who were these other people? What documentaries were these?
Like, for example, I watched the Unsung, okay, where they had his daughters, the people in the band, some of the Ikettes, and I feel like I need to keep clarifying. I'm not saying I know what's going on. I'm just saying, talking to them, they're saying like, yeah, Ike was wild, he's crazy, but he never hit her in front of us, for example. They all said that. Or they also allude to the fact that it's like, yeah, he was crazy, but also to get to where we got to, you can't be a normal, person. Like you have to be, and there's no excuse to put your hands on anybody. I'm just saying, if it wasn't as clear as she depicted, I'm just saying that's irresponsible. Because
and she didn't write that movie, by the way. I think it's important to name that the movie, so the book, obviously her book was co-written with someone named Kurt Loder, and the movie was based on her book, but the actual screenplay was written by someone named Kate Lanier and directed by Brian Gibson. So I do want to name like that actual interpreting of her book. There was yet another layer on top.
And I think that, like, when you make it clear that a biopic is just,
it's not a documentary though.
It's not. I know it's not a documentary. But they didn't stress the fact that this is based. You know what I mean? Like, you should say that this was, if that's what it is. If it's like, yo, we took some dramatic license. All you got to do is, based on a true story, some events were added.
Put that in there. Oh, the last.
But that's always the case with a biopic. It's based on.
I know,
that's
but
why
I'm
it's
saying,
not a documentary.
But you should say, in my opinion, you should clarify, scenes have been added for dramatic effect. Mm-hmm. And that way, when somebody's watching this, whenever they see something while or whatever, they can know, I don't know if this is a real thing or one of the things that's been added. Maybe I'll go look it up. But it's like the way it's presented, it feels like it was supposed to be depicting real events.
What's your take on this, sis? This is tricky. This is murky. This is like, what is the responsibility of a biopic to be accurate? What's your take on this, sis?
I feel like it's Hollywood. Whenever I'm watching something, I'm like, this seems really a lot, but I'm enjoying it because it's a lot. Like, is it like I just like in my mind, I don't like, even with stuff like how it was for the Women King, and like people were like, oh my God, it's not accurate. And I was just like, but it's like Hollywood, and none of us were alive during that time.
And it's not a documentary.
It's not a documentary. So I'm always like,
an objectivity.
There's some pieces of everything that are going to be add-ons. But with that being said, I absolutely was curious of the origin story of Ike. I said, because
yes.
I was like, you don't become, I said, if anything in this movie was correct, I was like, you don't become this way overnight.
That's right.
And listening to him talk, I was like, oh, honey, he has some trauma, child. Because he's talking about people leaving him. And I'm like, but how long is it extended from people leaving him? Did someone pass away? Did someone say they're going out for milk and not come home? Like, what has happened?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't want you to leave off that point, because because apparently his father was killed in front of him, and he was sexually assaulted twice when he was 7. So
there's a lot.
That was actually,
I'm just saying that I want you to keep going on your point. I just wanted to interject that in there.
Laurence Fishburne turned the part down 5 times because the original versions of Ike in the script apparently were very one-dimensional, and he was just a monster. And so he needed the character to be able to show the depth. And so that's why, as we watched it, we were thinking like, oh, this man has been through something. Apparently Laurence Fishburne worked with them to get that, to make sure that it was clear that this was a damaged person. Yeah, that it was layered, like the fringe dress. Once again, circle back. But that is to show him as complex.
Because I think everyone is, right? Absolutely. I don't think, unless there is some mental instability with someone,
even that's a complexity.
Right. Most people don't just wake up and go, oh yes, I'm about to beat my wife up and drag her down the hallway in front of our children. Like, I'm just pulling a scene from the movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
that was a crazy.
It was a lot. And then even I also thought about those children. Even though children are in this movie, I'm like, those were real tears from that little boy. And every time I watch this movie, I always wonder how they calmed him down to let them know that she was okay and he didn't really mean that. I always just think about that for that little boy, because he was truly crying.
She probably came out. And
right, just to let him know. But I think about, like, this is a movie, so we could go, oh, Miss Angela's okay, Mr. Laurence is okay. But in real life, what happens to a child when they see that?
Oh, you're talking about the child in the movie, or you're saying
yes?
Okay.
Well, both.
Yeah,
because I'm thinking about,
and also
I'm talking about
child.
the actor. Yeah.
Okay.
That little boy was really crying. He was in terror. Yeah. And that they couldn't cue that up. You know what I mean? Like, he was really concerned. And so I think about that.
It'd be messed up if he was like, no, I'm just a really good actor.
Right. Like, oh my God, at one, yes. And so, but then I think about, there are children and people who experience their existence.
Absolutely.
And so
every day,
when I see that, I almost go, part of me goes, I can't see you stealing her out of the hospital and you all creeping down the fire escape, which made me laugh, because I was like, this is why there's so many security measures in hospitals now. So, from the smoking that used to happen up in there, now people being stole out the back door, like all these different things are happening. But the other side is, if you are someone that is that genius. They always say it teeters on the line of insane, right? And it clearly from the music that Ike was writing, he was a musical genius. But the parts of it, they made me go, dang, how this is translating. I can't put past that this may not have happened in some way, shape, or form. But also what came to my mind is the people we never really talk about. And it was those that always let this stuff go on. You don't stop it, you enable it. Where are you? What are you saying? When are you saying that this is wrong? When are you saying that this is not okay? But a lot of times when you listen to those different individuals, a lot of it's like, this is just how it was. These are just things that were going on. And so I'm thankful now that some things would be called out and some things wouldn't be able to happen, but it did. It made me very sad for him. It made me very sad for him, but it also made me very sad for Tina because she had experienced her own trauma of her mom leaving when she's like 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And she's grown up with her grandma. And, now she's back she's in the city and it's new. And I'm thinking of like, yeah, you're experiencing that as well, because you don't want to leave someone like someone left you, as she said. And also, you have a mom in the movie, I don't know how true it is, that she could be bought. And so it is just it is a very complex movie.
That was another one, Britt, that you brought up some that I really wanted to talk about. Two of them. The fact that I wonder how bad her mom was. I wonder about that because she was bad in this movie. In the sense
Played by Jennifer Lewis.
Yeah,
hello.
Because if, let's just say the things were going like they were going in the movie, and I can't even come to you, that is, and I'm just saying, if that didn't happen, that is just a heavy thing to put in. And I also think, Britt, that just from a storytelling perspective, and I know this movie is about Tina Turner, but I feel like if you could have took 5 minutes to delve into the origin story, however you do it cinematically, but just don't excuse nothing. Nobody does. Right. But it's just more a complete picture of, you know what I mean, of what's going on.
I thought they did give us a little peek into the mom, because the first time, so when the mother leaves Anime behind, Anime then walks into the house and the house is in tatters. Obviously a fight has occurred there.
Right.
And then when we do finally get to hear from the mother says, listen, your father and I had a very, tumultuous relationship. That wasn't her exact language, but we get to see that there was abuse in that home that was severe. So I personally felt like, in the same way that we felt like, man, that Ike Turner is complex and been through something, and that's what's showing up. I felt that way about the mom too. And it doesn't let people off the hook for the impact of what they did and for their actions. Not letting people, you did what you did, okay? But I felt like they made the mom complex and gave us a little peek, like she wasn't just a jerk. She was fleeing something.
You know what it made me think I could get with you on that, but I don't feel like they made Ike complex. I feel like they made him.
Oh my gosh, when he was sitting there saying, like, I've been left behind so many times. How many people have I nurtured? And they just left me here, And one of the things he kept saying, and in some ways it felt like an abusive, like mental manipulative tactic, but the way that they were conveying it, it was very much also, to me, it was sharing his personal kind of like interior dialogue. He was constantly saying, oh, I guess now you're going to leave me. And so there was something in him that wanted to chase her away and beat her to leave him, but also hold her close.
It's very I
felt he was complex in there.
Laurence Fishburne did an amazing job.
He really did.
And Angela Bassett.
They played.
I'm gonna tell you, I really was impressed with the acting. Definitely.
Played those parts.
I'll I'll say that. But
Oh,
I'm saying the parts when the way I felt when Ike was talking about people who left him, right? In my mind, first of all, who are you talking about? Like, so because we all know people who talk about what they did, and you like, but I don't know any of these stories though. You know what I'm saying? But and so for me, it made me feel like it was part of the abuse. It didn't feel like it was adding to its complexity. It felt like it was
manipulation.
Like now this dude is manipulated. Now he's saying, oh, he's helped all. It's like giving himself an excuse to act in the ways in which he's acting, which that would not
probably
be
all of that. It was probably all of that.
Because what I'm saying is, if you are an artist and you help some artists and they went on to become famous, that still doesn't connect to you abusing somebody, to me. But if you were sexually assaulted twice when you were 7, and that is more of a, you know what I mean? Like it just.
Well, bro, I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to kind of, because I think the way that people experience the trauma, of whatever level it is, I mean, it's hard to predict how things will impact a person and how they might act out.
This is true.
So to kind of say only this kind of activity merits this kind of reaction.
No, you're right.
That's
you're
tricky.
Right. You're absolutely
That's
right.
very
You're
tricky.
Absolutely right.
You
You're
know.
absolutely right. So if I look at it that way, then I can see the complexity. Like, because basically, let's just assume that part was true. Like he wasn't just saying it. Then that I could get there. I could get there. Like, yo, all these people have done such and such, and now you're going to do it too. I got abandonment issues. I can see that.
Have you all ever seen the movie Enough with Jennifer Lopez?
Yeah.
And it's a good movie. I love Jennifer Lopez as an actress.
I love that movie.
It's really good, but it is about a woman who a man gets with her, he ends up being abusive, and she has to get away from him. But towards the beginning of their marriage, she goes to his mom after he has hit her. And his mom says to her, "Oh my goodness, sweetie, what did you do?" And so I think about that in the context of Anna's mom, right? Like you let Ike know that she was on a bus on her way to see
you. That was crazy.
And so I see that and I just go, what's happening? And I feel part of me feels really, I don't even know if I want to say bad, maybe like so far from it. I feel so distant from it as I'm watching it, like, dang, is this really happening? Like your own mom who's getting a second chance with you would do this? Or
your mom that was also an abused lady.
Right. Or you have your husband, he raped you. Or you have a situation where there are the other things that are involved, right? Of course, drugs and all these different things that can alter a person's personality. And so I'm just like, this seems so far away, but I'm like, this is probably many people's reality. Of course, not to that extent, right? Because of the money and the access. But just in terms of like this being a narrative, it really, even if those parts did not happen to Tina Turner, they had to be shown because they are many people's stories that may not honestly be here to tell it because they didn't make it. And so I don't know what gets someone to the space of, I can beat you up like you're a man, punch you. I don't know. I don't know what, but the part that I can understand in a sense is what will make you stay. The programming that happens to women in these type of situations is quite insidious. And it's like, it's so quiet and in a way that's like, oh, just work with them. Just work with it. You have food, you have a house, you have a car, you have all these things. Just, it's okay. Even the part when he was flirting with one of the background singers, her mother was holding the baby. She was like, oh, men will just be men. And it's like, there's this dismissal that happens in these beginning phases where violence, and I'll say physical violence is not happening. But by the time you get to that space, there's been such a breakdown that I am going to stay after you basically broke my nose in front of my children, in front of my friends and colleagues. You don't get to that. And I remember that in high school, watching a video on abuse. And that video on abuse has stuck with me. Ben Savage was in it. It was in our health class. And it was talking about Ben Savage was the abuser. And it was talking about the process of what abuse starts to look like. And the beginning parts are this emotional abuse where your mind is being trained to be okay with what this person is doing. And I'm just like, the moment that she found freedom, she couldn't even find it. And then one part I do want to know though, whether it was an ad lib or it was like as a direction, was when he pulled up and he was in the black Cadillac to get him out the van. Off the bus. And he hit her in the head as she was getting in the car. Get in the car. I was like, Laurence, was this you? Or was this?
I'm gonna just tell you
this direction? Because you did that. He made me hate him in this.
I'm gonna just tell you,
sure
if I was her mom and that didn't happen like that, I would be infuriated. Because she called her in the depths. And she said, please don't tell him. And I'm like, why would she even say that? Because that would be, and then you show up in the next, I just hope, I don't, I'm just saying it.
Can I tell y'all, I'm really appreciating this conversation. I would not have guessed that we would be sitting here parsing this content this way. It's so interesting because when I was watching it, and I think when I watch biopics in general, I just so live in the reality. Like in my mind, it's like, this is somebody's interpretation of something. I just even remember like when the Temptations movie came out, and there was like one of them, I don't think it was Otis, who just looked like he was the only one with any virtue in the whole team. And it was like, okay, Otis, all right. But anyway, it was just, so I guess I'm so ready to understand that, these are a take, that I didn't struggle at all while watching it with wondering what piece of it was real, but what piece of it wasn't. But I'm appreciating this conversation because and the other part of it is, the one thing I did do after I watched it was I wish that I had given myself more time, and I didn't have a newborn daughter, because I wanted to watch
whatever time you had. She was like, oh, good for me.
Exactly,
Mom.
Because if I had just even a little bit more time, I would have at least watched Tina's documentary.
Yeah, that's what I want to watch next.
Yes, I also would have read. Tina has a book. Ike has a book. If we, there would have been a way.
Ike has a book.
He does, and it's called Taking Back My Name. And so there are if we wanted to actually have a conversation about the truthfulness of the movie, there are a lot of resources out there, I think, for us to be able to start to parse some of that. And in fact, what I could do really quickly on Wikipedia page, they do have some corrections for a couple of the scenes we were just talking about. I'll tell you really, really quickly.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read from what they have here. The infamous Eat the Cake anime scene was an exaggerated reenactment of an incident that occurred during the early years of the review. Tina recalled that when they stopped to order food, someone brought her a pound cake while they were sitting in a car. Although Tina said she did not order it, Ike ordered her to eat all of it while he watched. And the scene where Tina was raped during the recording of Nutbush City Limits was exaggerated from what she stated in her book. Tina claimed that sometimes after Ike would hit her, he would then have sex with her. Ike maintained that he never raped Tina. Nutbush City Limits was recorded at their Bullock sound recording studio, not at their home as depicted in the film. And then one other that we talked earlier about that line, if you don't make it, I'll kill you, when she's in the ambulance. Ike did not tell Tina, if you don't make it, I'll kill you, as depicted in the ambulance scene. Tina stated in her book that after her suicide attempt, she joked with a friend that she was so afraid of Ike, he probably threatened her, which is why she survived. She was unconscious and did not know what he actually said. Ike stated in his book that he scolded Tina as his way of motivating her to fight for her life. And then I will say they do have something on the hospital scene here. The film depicts Ike and his entourage sneaking Tina out of the hospital after she gave birth to get married. In reality, Ike was not present for the birth of their son, Ronnie. Tina wrote in her book that a few days after she checked herself out of the hospital, she discovered that the woman Ike hired to replace her while she recuperated was a sex worker using her stage name Tina Turner to get clients. She confronted the woman, and after they got into a fight, Tina performed a show that night. Ike wrote in his book, Taking Back My Name, that he was unaware that the woman was a sex worker. He was out of town to attend a court hearing in St. Louis when Tina actually gave birth in Los Angeles, and they actually married in 1962, 2 years after the birth of their son. So anyway, so then there's a long list of these, of just ways, just corrections. But I also think that is the case for every biopic. But I think there are always latitudes taken to drive a theme home or a conclusion.
But I know we're driving a theme, but we're also dealing with real people. And Ike's life was ruined. And I'm just saying, if he was like that, it deserved to be ruined.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what. But if it wasn't, I'm just saying that is, you got to think of the order of what happened. She blew up. He went to jail shortly after that. In the interim, she comes with this movie. He gets out of jail. And then now you got people spitting on you in the streets. You know what I mean? Because you think about, everybody was talking about this movie at the time. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about, I just so appreciate our, this discussion of just like how the content came to be. How did we manage to get that on the screen, and that becomes now the story that we hold, and we started to talk a little bit about the portrayals, because part of the reason why it felt like, a really like a take was because it felt, in my opinion, pretty real in terms of like, I thought Angela Bassett and Laurence Fishburne did the damn thing in these roles. Also, every single person. Candy Alexander played Ike-ette,
Vanessa Bell Calloway.
Yes, as an Ike-ette.
Yeah, she did good too.
So good. Shy McBride as an Ike-ette. And then we had Jennifer Lewis again as the mother. What did y'all think of some of these performances?
I feel like the entire movie was casted very well. There was not one person that to me did not hold their own. Mm-hmm. Especially Ike's first girlfriend that we meet. Listen, she played Penny
Johnson Gerald played Lorraine Taylor.
Yeah,
who tried to kill herself.
Played that part.
Yeah, who tried to kill herself.
Yes.
And I guess I knew lines, and I was waiting for her to say it. You're not even worth the bullet. I said it before she said it, and I was laughing like, why do I remember this stuff from this movie? Maybe because I've watched it a million times. BET will play this movie on repeat,
and because Black people keep quoting it. We be quoting this movie, yo. Yes, we do.
And so she did an amazing job of showing someone who over time just in this movie, and I'll say that because we've already discussed how some things are not real. In this movie, her character showed how what happens to you over time, staying a possibility, let me say that, of what can happen to you over time when you stay in this circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And by this point, she's used to the women. And she started to cope now, right? Because we see that happen to Tina later on when she tries to kill herself. But then you see that she's like alcohol.
Yep.
Then she tries to shoot herself, which, you know, to this day, I've been trying to figure out where she shot herself. They had her covered up in a blanket. And I'm thinking, if I'm really trying to get out of here, I'm going straight for the temple. But I was like, to this day,
sometimes people aren't though. You know,
yeah, maybe she really wasn't trying to get out.
Yeah, some people
call for help.
Some people are. Yeah.
And also, sometimes when you're drunk and high, you don't have a good aim.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you grazed her arm.
Yeah,
I assume
sometimes
she
your
did
aim's not
like
good.
she like turned on herself, like shot in the stomach or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's what
I was assuming. Yeah.
Okay, because I was just like, you can't see anything. Not that we just need to see that. And then also,
but people do survive headshots too.
They do. They do.
So.
But that part when she rolled up on that grass, I see you playing daddy now. And how she dropped her kicks off, I said, oh, she is going through, honey. Because so anyway, I just thought that was, and I wonder when he had his daughters, because in this movie, they only have 4 boys.
Yeah.
And I wonder how old the daughters are, or maybe they never had 4 boys. I have no idea.
No, they have 4 boys, because also in the movie, they never talk about Tina had a baby before Ike.
She already had a son.
She already had a son.
Yeah.
And that's just, and I'm just saying that was just another thing that is like.
So they deleted a human?
No, he was there. They just didn't really explain him. It was Lorraine.
They didn't even mention him. They said 4 sons one time.
Lorraine Taylor, the mother of Ike's sons, Ike Jr. and Michael, did not drop them off at his home with Tina as depicted in the film. In reality, Ike went to St. Louis and brought his sons to Los Angeles after Lorraine informed him she was going to leave them there. Tina also brought her son Craig to live with them.
And they only have one.
They only have one child together.
The daughters.
That's crazy, because they made it like Craig was Ike and Tina's child.
Who?
In the movie, they made Craig was there, but they made Craig seem as though that was Ike and Tina's first son. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they made it seem like their child was her first child.
And I'm just saying that's another, because like if she's bringing a child, that just adds more dimension. Yep. And that's why I'm just saying this movie was trying to have a very specific.
And it had an agenda.
You know what I mean? And
I want to struggle with that language, y'all. I struggle with that language. I mean, it's one thing. I mean,
maybe that agenda. That's strong.
It is strong to say that it had an agenda. Every subjective, like it's a take. It's a take, yeah. And I struggle with it being like someone on a mission to, drive a point home.
It was written by the one person that Ike Turner turned down.
Right.
Oh, we're gonna get him.
I'm just saying, like, we can't act like this is the first movie ever.
I'm not.
To try to summarize a life and take liberties in doing it, and like,
I
mean.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying
I think it did the typical thing the biopics do. I feel like it was just, to me, it's just exactly what happens in a biopic.
But I'm just saying, I haven't seen many biopics. I can't think of another one that made somebody as monstrous as they made Ike.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't stick around to watch them, because some of these biopics be going on for 17 days, 2 hours. I'm not watching your whole story.
That's real talk right there. But I don't think, for me, I don't think it was as much to destroy Ike as it was to elevate Tina. Mm-hmm. Like I felt like they were wanting to show Tina as somebody who was in a dire circumstance, and she overcame. That's what I think they were trying to show.
It look like that.
But I'm just saying, I feel like if Ike wasn't that bad. That was a biopic, but he had real life ramifications.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that is something people should be responsible about, because
I agree.
I'm just saying, if you're about to ruin, imagine having somebody you don't know spit on you.
But you know what though, bro? That brings in another context. People be doing too much. Like, people.
Oh, no, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that brings in.
No, she was wrong. Whenever that happened, they're wrong too. But I'm just
like,
yeah.
But no, I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. Like, don't make somebody out to be something that they are not. Yeah, talk about how awful they were, but don't drum it up. Like, don't say, oh my goodness, someone accidentally stepped on your toe. Don't go, they saw me, they saw my toe, and they
shot me.
They shot me in the toe.
My toe is gone now because of this specific real person.
And it was the pinky toe. Now I don't have any balance. And so it's like, and then somebody that was there was like, but actually you kind of stubbed your toe, because that's not what happened. First of
all, it was your finger. Okay. But let's talk more about this. This was a question that James raised as we were watching this. And it was not his first time watching it either. He hadn't seen it in a long time, but he had seen the movie before. And of course, like I said, I've seen it many times. But James' question was like, how would you rank this biopic like against the other kind of like Black celebrity biopics that are out there, you know? And, you know, the list we were coming up with was like, you know, Malcolm X, you know, James Brown, you know, you got the Jackie Robinson, King Richard, you know, the Ali movie, Charles. Yes, Ray Charles. Would you think of this as like what, like, would you put it toward the top of the list in terms of those like Black celebrity biopics?
Yeah, it's one we talk about. It's one that's quotable. But those other ones you talked about, I don't really remember them. I'm not gonna lie to you, except for Malcolm X. Malcolm X, I remember because it was 3 days long. But like, and it had some depth to it. It had a lot of depth to it. But like the other ones that you named, like when I think about in terms of things that have been very pivotal, I guess you could say, for the Black community in terms of a movie that we always remember. I think there were some parts for Ray that you still do remember, like how he would touch the person's arm to see if they were fat or not, like, you know, stuff like that.
I don't have any quotes from Ray that I can think of. Even though I really love his
music, though. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Yeah, and Jamie Foxx did an amazing job. Like,
yes, he did. But I didn't make it into the content. Didn't make it into our, you know,
I guess the Black ethos.
It didn't.
I didn't. But you know what? And this is probably, I'm guilty of this. Not probably, I know I am. When I'm looking at these movies, these biopics and stuff like that, I'm like, none of us were there. So if what you're doing is taking me on a good journey of this person's story, a look at it, as Janai says, I'm like, well, let's go. Let's go. But what I do not appreciate are the real life ramifications, like everybody hating Ike Turner, right? This man is vicious.
I personally think he's the devil. I do feel that way now. And then I would be very hard for me to give him an objective.
And then people hating him to the point where they don't even realize they're projecting onto him what maybe abuse they experience in their lives. And so I think about how I don't like how media does that.
Yes.
I don't
in general.
Like even when it comes to Insecure, there were people that were like calling Yvonne Orji Molly. And it's like, I am Yvonne Orji. Like, I'm not, this is a character I'm playing. People are real upset with me in real life for a script that I was playing out. I think so often how many actors and actresses name that, and they name it so often. And so then it makes me go, what is the psyche? What is happening to people when they're watching these things that I just can't step away? That I just can't be in this moment, watching this,
Absolutely.
that I am able to now go, oh, that was Laurence
Because
playing
see,
a
the
character,
thing was,
know.
if people were like that and they were like y'all, like if they're like y'all too, right? If everybody was like that, you could pretty much do whatever you want, because everybody would, like, even as much as Janiyah hate Ike Turner, she ain't gonna spit on him. You know what I mean? When she saw him. So it's just like, her.
And I also know for sure that there are more factual takes out there. You know what I mean? So I'm also holding that.
Yeah, and it's like you in the, I'm saying her hate is innocuous. It ain't affected Ike. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. And I'm saying, for me, I know I'm just supposed to be watching the movie, but because like, I hated Ike, right? Before I even see this movie. But when I'm watching, I'm like, God, dog, like, who is it? And it made me look it up, because I'm like, if this is, like, and I'm just saying, for me, I feel like, and I know I keep going back to this, but I feel like in the beginning, if you said based on a true story, events added for dramatic effect, that's all, one sentence.
We added a little sprinkle.
Yeah, just and that way,
tell me something.
And that way you don't know what is real and what's not, so you could just watch the movie, and then you're not thinking about, you know what I'm saying? Because this is like, I'm gonna tell you, I don't know how they got in the headspace to do that assault scene, but that was heavy.
It was, and Laurence Fishburne said that he told them he was only going to be able to do it 4 times. I watched him do an interview, and he was basically saying that he, in his first marriage, was abusive. He was physically abusive to his wife, and he had done years of therapy to move away from that. And he said, okay, I can do this for this character, but I don't want to go back there. I don't want to be in that headspace for too long. And I don't want the cast and the crew to have to be all day filming this traumatic
Right.
And so he said, he was being interviewed by Jamel Hill in this interview. And
yes, Jamel.
He said, I told them we would only do that scene 4 times maximum, no more. And we were not, not going to do it multiple days. So they did it 4 times, one day, scene done. Because he said, I didn't want any of us, including he said part of it was protecting Angela from having to be in that moment over and over and over again, when normally you could tape a scene all day. So,
and it's amazing. This is why actors and actresses are amazing, but then you do see the other side of it when some of them can't come out of it, like a Heath Ledger. Like, you see what can happen when the character starts to take them over. Or I always like that one movie with Omar Epps, In Too Deep, whenever he was a cop. Oh, okay. He was a cop. He was a cop. Was it Tyree, or I can't remember what his character's name was, but he was a cop in the movie. And in the movie, he went undercover to be a part of a gang, and that was doing, of course, a bunch of things. And there was a lot of stuff. And it was like really gruesome. You'll never watch that movie, sis. And so you'll never watch it. And so, but it showed him get into this character where he no longer was able to be different. He was in too deep, as the movie talked about, right?
Gotcha.
And so he basically had to go through counseling and all this different stuff afterwards to be able to process out of being this person for so long and having to do things to prove himself.
That's a good example.
And so,
because that's how it be happening.
Oh my God.
I think about that for someone playing these very intense, psychotic. Like I'm listen. I'm saying a prayer for whoever played that Jeffrey Dahmer part. I'm never watching that.
I ain't even watching.
I'm never watching it. No, I remember when that stupid stuff was happening in real life.
I don't need to watch.
Yeah, foolishness was happening in real life. No, thank you. I don't wanna. But it is also a conversation of how and I don't know how other cultures are, outside of the United States. I mean, I have a sense, but what happens in the United States, how much we love some good trauma porn. We love us. Law and Order SVU is on season 8,000,002.
Yep.
Episode 1,000,007,000.
Yep.
And it is amazing. At the beginning of everyone, these sexually based heinous crimes are based off of true events. At this point, show me some reruns of Reading Rainbow.
There are whole channels that just show true crimes and stuff like that, and
it's too much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
But I just want to say, all that to be said, the fact that we're talking the way we're talking just speaks to how well the movie was acted.
Yeah.
I think it was very
well said,
it was
bro.
Very well acted. Everybody
bro,
did a great job.
Summing? Are you taking us to the vote?
I think we can
take
vote.
us to the vote, bro.
We can vote. But you know what? I need to go last. I need to go last because I know we just did this last time, but like I need to hear y'all because I'm very conflicted because I respect all the acting in the movie. I just find myself clouded. You know what I mean? And like, I know that the movie has penetrated culture on a level that this is one of the movies that you didn't have to see and you know lines out the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna tell you a song, what I used to say all the time. And I still say, sing it how I wrote it. That's how I never even saw the movie. So I'm conflicted. So please
well, my one line that I have always said was, I know the song, I wrote it. So, I'm happy to go first because I'm clear on this movie. This is a classic for me. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. It is because that Angela Bassett and that Laurence Fishburne, they played these parts. Okay. I just like, man. And let me just say, it like wanting to, and again, you all know I've just been a student of like film writing and stuff like that. So I'm very much like always like, I'm assessing based on what I know the criteria is for successful storytelling, just based on what the experts say. This was just a well done story, and again, as I mentioned earlier, when I'm watching these movies, I know that these things are like, I'm able to hold as I'm watching it. This is a fictionalized take on true events. I always think about that when I'm watching a biopic. And frankly, when I'm watching documentaries, I barely trust documentaries sometimes because when people are like, oh, this documentary is like showing all sides, is it? Okay. So I think
because I need to talk to the janitor.
Totally. And maybe I guess what I'm saying is
cleaning that hotel room.
I guess what I'm saying is because I have complete trust issues and don't trust any gatekeepers whatsoever. I certainly don't trust it.
You to be objective.
That's what
all kind of NDAs floating around. Oh,
totally.
We're not getting the whole
because I just think about my own life and how people look at my life and they think they know. And I'm not Tina Turner. Y'all don't know. And so I personally, like, I have, like, because of that, I go into this like, oh, it's a movie, it's like watching a Little Mermaid. Okay. So for me, it's a classic because I just feel like it was well done and those actors played those parts. Okay. And I could just watch it over and over again. And I have watched it over and over again. And I'm going to keep watching it over and over again. So I'm clear on this one, y'all. This one gets my friend's dress for sure.
Yes. One thing we did not talk about is the limo scene, which is an iconic scene about when you finally see
breaking
Tina Turner.
I said that one happened.
She whooped his ass, okay? And then I don't know if it was supposed to be funny or not, but Laurence Fishburne and Angela Bassett are so good that you're seeing them walk into this hotel looking toe up from the floor up, bloody. And it's funny because they're both walking like nothing has happened. And they both look normal right now. It makes me think about on Friday, whenever she's like, are you high? And he's like, he does like this on his shirt as if it's going to make him not so high anymore. It's like Ice Cube. That didn't work.
Yeah, your tactic is not strong.
Is it? Like, yes,
you do.
And so I appreciated in that moment how it was like a yes. And it was the comedic relief as well, because it's like, you're seeing this man, he's taking off his boot. She hit him in his balls with her heel. And it was on and popper from that point. You know,
and the other thing about that scene, it felt very real. Because like if she kicked him with that is a pain that y'all won't understand. He was definitely incapacitated.
Don't want to know. Because that, I'm like, with a heel, there would have had to be some type of hole in there at this point. I was like, she went over there. And it was also what made it seem real too, because she didn't go over there and like, start, like an athletic punch. It was like,
it definitely was. It definitely was. It definitely was. It
was like that kind of thing. So I just really appreciated that part. But at any rate, this movie absolutely gets my fringe dress. And the reason why it gets my fringe dress is because it evokes so much conversation and emotion. And I think that it also tells a narrative that many people have not gotten a chance to voice. There are so many people from everywhere that can look at this movie and go, that was my mom. That was my dad. Men get abused too. That was my dad. That was, my aunt. That was my uncle. That was my cousin. That was me on Tuesday. Like these are things that absolutely are happening. And so when I could see a movie showing this character being vindicated and free at the end, to the point where she says, I don't want anything from you. I just want my name. And at 43 starts over. The age where they tell women, well, basically your life is done and you don't have no more years left. You get an opportunity to see this woman recreate her life and be able to move forward and start a new narrative that says, because I remember a commercial from her years ago, and I think it was a stocking commercial, and she said, I'm resilient. Now, that, if there's not a better word that we all need to be inspired to become, and that is being resilient. So it absolutely gets my fringe dress, because the acting was impeccable. It was amazing. All the casting was great. The direction for everybody was great. Even though everything wasn't accurate, I still enjoyed the movie, and I still have quotables in my mind from this movie that will never go away. And to be honest, if this movie comes on, y'all always know I say this, if this movie comes on TV, I'm absolutely going to sit down and watch it. I had to actually make myself watch some parts because I knew what was happening without even having to look. I was like, Brittany, actually watch it. Because I was going to walk away. I was in the kitchen doing stuff. I was going to know exactly what's happening. So anyway, it absolutely gets my fringe dress.
Right. Bro, it's on you.
Yeah, I think y'all sold me. I mean, I just want to be clear that when I'm rating this movie, I'm gonna just detach myself and just rate the movie. I don't think I will ever watch it again because it just had me in a weird space. But sure. I feel like it's a classic, and it's a classic. I can't, like, it's so in our culture, and it was so well done. Like, put it this way. If it wasn't about Ike and Tina, but they just changed the names and made it, and it was the same movie, I would feel a lot, like if it was clearly fiction, I would feel probably a lot different. So I'm just going to separate that and say, based on the movie itself, it was a great movie, and I'll say it gets my fringe dress. But this was a hard one.
Oh gosh.
Well, this is the way to end the season.
It is. And look at the right perspective. We're getting to the heart of these questions. We're raising the tough questions on the right perspective. But we have dug in and we have determined that What's Love Got to Do with It is a classic from
Whenever you get back
the right perspective
to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
It has so many good points.
And also, rest in peace, Tina Turner.
Yes.
We love and respect you.
No
And-
love for Ike. No love for Ike. Ike, don't get this.
And
I
again,
guess-
and Tina, we love you. As I was just
Ike,
saying.
we are so sorry
Full stop.
we're so sorry that they sullied your name past what it should have been sullied.
Possibly.
Possibly. Allegedly
Possibly.
sullied.
Yeah,
Past what it should have been
Yeah, I will
sullied.
keep my lips off it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know either way.
Yeah,
I don't know either way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we'd love to get your take. Please let us know in the comments. Send us a message. What do
Yeah,
you?
I'm curious to your
What's
thoughts.
love got to
Yeah.
do with it for you?
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. We can't wait to
That's
hear
right.
from you, everybody. Thanks for a great season, y'all. Thanks
Thank
for
you all
participating
so
with
much.
us, and we can't wait to see you
Really
in
appreciate
season
it.
4 of the Right Perspective.
Thank you, everybody.
Love
Aw.
you, bro and sis. Thank
I
you,
love
viewers and
y'all.
listeners. Bye.